Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. Welcome to another day of movement and mindfulness. We're on day 10 now, which means we're getting pretty far into the month of November. Wanted to check in and see how, if you're in England, this experience of lockdown 2.0 has been for you. I've found for myself that actually having this little bit of routine in the morning has helped set me up for the day really well. So hopefully you're finding something within your own day to kind of give you a little bit of structure, to help you find a little bit of motivation to keep you going through a month which can be pretty kind of dark weather-wise. I know that the lack of light can also cause my mood to be a little bit lower. So not just lockdown, but other aspects of being in this time of year can have an effect on how we're all feeling collectively. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit today. We talked yesterday about having a beginner's mindset. And part of that for me is setting really realistic expectations for myself. And I want you to think a little bit about that for yourself as well. You know, it doesn't have to be just work related or, having these huge, massive goals in your life. It's just these everyday things that we think maybe we should or we have to accomplish that may not be actually very realistic for where you are at the moment. So we'll have a little look at that deeper when we're going into the movement aspect of this session. But I wanted you to just start thinking about that. Like, are you creating unrealistic goals that are just setting you up for failure? I do it for myself all the time. I think I should be accomplishing something huge, and then when I don't, I'm just like, I'm going to give up because it's too much, it's too big. Whereas if I broke it down into smaller chunks and tried to do little things and build upon that, then maybe it would be a little bit more attainable. And that's what I am trying to do in my own practice and what I want to start to help people to do through my 10-week course, which I'll be offering at the end of the month. But let's just start with a little bit of breathing. I'm going to have you take your hands back behind the back of your head and just create a little bit of space and a little bit of length by drawing your hands up the nape of your neck. So your thumbs draw down the back of your neck, and you're just inviting that space and that length for the back of the neck so that the head can grow up really tall here. Take a big deep breath in, and then as you exhale, you're just going to begin to tuck your chin towards your chest. Stay here for a few moments, really asking your elbows to drop down and wide, and take a few breaths into that space between the shoulder blades. Breathing into the back of the body. And then with your next inhale, you're going to start to lift up through the chest first, and then your gaze will just start to follow. Use your hands to help you start to just lift the nape of the neck a little bit so that your gaze lifts up towards the ceiling. Nice big deep breath into the front of the body now. And then exhale, begin to tuck the chin, go back down the other way. Nice big deep breath in. Make sure you're not just collapsing through your lower spine back. You're actually staying kind of really grounded through your sitting bones here. And then use your inhale to bring you back up through the center, lifting the chest, lifting the gaze. We'll do that one more time. Exhaling. Take a couple of breaths. Think about these ribs staying lifted up and over your seat. And then when you're breathing in next, begin to lift the chest, begin to lift the gaze. Imagine that your elbows are being picked up from behind to lift you up, gaze and heart space towards the ceiling. And then coming back to the center, leaving your hands back behind your head just for a moment. We're going to start to rotate around to the right side. So take a big deep breath in. Exhale, keep the length of the spine, keep growing tall as you turn around to the right side, and then inhale back to center. So it doesn't have to be a huge movement. Exhaling around to the left. Inhaling back to center. We're just asking the ribs to wring out the lungs as we're turning and twisting. One more time each side. Really staying grounded through your seat. And then release the arms and come down slowly, and then just give them a nice little shake here. Shake out the head, maybe give your head a little roll around. Okay, so from here, I'm going to have you plant your left hand down, take your right arm, and you're going to reach it up towards the ceiling as far as it can possibly go. So really imagine now that you're being pulled by that arm, and almost like it's going to be pulled out of your body a little bit. And then as you exhale, see if you can just start to create more space, more length along this side of the body, and just stay here and breathe for a few moments. Still reaching through your right fingertips. Seeing with each exhalation, you could start to just melt into that stretch a little bit more. Notice that I'm not collapsing completely down onto my left side. If anything, it's more about the right side than trying to get down to the floor whatsoever. And then press up through your left hand, let that right hand plant down, reach up towards the sky, up towards the ceiling with your left arm. Reach, 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 and then start to just allow for some more space to come through the whole of that left side. Your right arm might just bend, come a little bit closer towards the floor, but we're not trying to get down there. Nice big deep breaths. So again, just this idea that we're really looking for a three-dimensional breath. We don't really spend enough time allowing the sides of the body to open, but what this really does is juice up the diaphragm and get it working, get it moving, get all those tissues stretched out, ready for your day. Let's go back to the first side again. This time I invite you to do a little bit of movement, so whatever feels good. I quite like to have a little rotation forward here, and then a rotation back, but not so much that it comes into my lower spine at all, or stretches my shoulder. It's just a little past the center, coming forward and coming back. It might feel good for you to circle around the arm as you're doing a little bit of movement. Just have a little experiment. There's no right or wrong here. There's just movement and opening up through the side of that body. See what happens when you reach your fingertips a little bit more when you're in some rotation maybe. See what that feels like for you. Keep breathing those lovely deep breaths to allow the diaphragm muscle to do some work, some stretching out here. Just spend one more moment on this side. Maybe letting your head come with you, if that feels good, if that feels comfortable. And then reach up and the other side, do the same thing over here, just adding a little bit of more movement. Rather than staying static, you're just inviting some really juicy, nourishing movement of the arm, movement of the spine, movement of the head, whatever you need this morning. Lovely deep breaths. And then bring yourself back up to the center. Okay, so we're going to talk about now this, coming back to this idea of breaking a big task or goal back into smaller, more manageable parts. So I want you to try, before we get into that, trying to do your version. So actually, not even your version. We're going to try to do a big push-up here. So make some space for yourself. You're going to have your hands onto the floor and your feet back into plank position. So notice, just to begin with, what it's like for you to hang out in this position, and then try to do whatever push-up you can, and then come back up to seated. Just notice what that was like for you. Morning, Rod. Nice to see you today. And I just want you to imagine if you expected yourself to be able to do 50 perfect push-ups immediately every single day, what that kind of would set you up for. You probably would get discouraged after doing one or two if you're not somebody who practices a push-up all day, every day. But if you were to break that down into more manageable parts, so coming here, come onto your hands and knees. Hopefully that's comfortable for you. If you need something between beneath your knees, go ahead and set yourself up with that. You're going to take your wrists and we're just going to turn them the opposite way. So they're going to be turning your fingers towards you with your palms face up. Just to begin to stretch out the wrists. So you can have a little go with putting a little bit more weight onto the wrists and then easing off of that, just kind of giving a little bounce. So again, we're just breaking this push-up down into smaller pieces. We need our wrists to be nice and warmed up for a push-up, so we're just inviting a little bit of movement. Turn your hands the other way. Just start to lean a little bit forward, lean a little bit back. And see what that's like for you. So we're asking our hands to do some weight bearing for us. And then just turn onto your back for a moment and lie on down to your back. And you're going to have your hands up towards the ceiling. You can keep your knees bent and just feel how your shoulders are spreading out along the floor, and you're really thinking about pushing the ceiling away from you with your arms. Now I want you to imagine that the ceiling is going to come down towards you. You're going to resist with your hands, let the elbows bend, and then push it back up. I want you to really be aware of what's going on at the back of the body here. So keep on going with that. Just letting the arms bend, imagining you've got the ceiling into your hands that's going to fall down, but you're going to resist it, and then you're going to push it back up to where it was. So notice what the shoulders are doing, the shoulder blades along the floor. Are they sliding together, letting your elbows slide out, or could you keep them nice and wide and keep a sense of really allowing that space to spread as you bend and straighten your arms? What is your lower back doing? Is it arching too much? Or is it keeping a nice bit of length? Just check in with all of that through the back of the body. Is your head nice and aligned with the rest of your spine, or are you overarching through the neck? Let's just try that one more time. And then just give the arms a little shake. Come back upright. So that's a really good place to start, just to give you an idea of where your alignment is for a push-up. Come back onto your hands and your knees, and you're just going to have that same sense of pushing the ceiling away, but now you're going to use your back of your head, back of your shoulders, the back of your pelvis to push the ceiling away, rather than your hands, because your hands are actually pressing now into the floor rather than up towards the ceiling. This is really uncomfortable for your wrists. You can always bring them slightly forward in front of you so that there's not so much compression onto them. But otherwise, I want you to just see what happens now if you start to think of pressing the ceiling away with the back of your body, and you just bend the arms a little bit here and then press yourself back up. This might feel a little bit more manageable than trying to do a big full push-up. And imagining that you could try to do 50, but maybe you could do about 10 of these per day. And if you were to do 10 of these per day. I like to let my elbows come in rather than letting them go out, which is kind of the preferable position for the elbows for me. Then if you were to practice that every day, then you get really good and you'd someday be able to do some really nice push-ups. So it's about breaking your tasks down into smaller, more manageable pieces that eventually will get you to your bigger goal. So give the arms a little shake out. We're going to turn on over. We're moving beyond our push-up now, just to work the arms in a little bit of a different way. Let your hands face towards you, so we've got the wrists in the opposite direction to what they were. Feet are going to be planted onto the floor. Nice big deep breath in, and you're going to just take your pelvis and let it float away from the floor. Keep your gaze right over your knees. Take a big deep breath in here, and then exhale and slowly lower back down. So we'll try that again. Nice big deep breath, and then coming on up, just giving the chance for the shoulders to open, working your arms in a little bit of a different way here. Coming down, we'll just do that one more time. And then straighten out your legs. Reach the arms up and just have a little stretch forward, just giving that shoulders a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a shake here. Okay, now coming over onto your side, we're gonna, so we've done some side work in our previous 10 days of work here, but I wanted you to see what happens when you bring yourself up onto your arm, your elbow, and your forearm. So bring your elbow right, just kind of a little bit out from underneath your shoulder. You're going to pivot your hand away, so it's going to be at a little bit of an angle. And you're really going to just see if you can lift yourself up away from the floor and then just collapse. You don't want to hurt your shoulder here, but just notice what happens when you sink down towards the floor and don't really have any stability through your shoulder. And then press yourself up and away from that arm. Really feel like you're getting a lift through your underneath side. Make sure your shoulders are both facing forward. Lift up through that hand, up towards the ceiling, so you get a lift through the upper body. And then you're going to straighten out your top leg. And you're just going to have a few times lifting and lowering. So now just kind of working on all these muscles that help you to actually do a push-up. Doesn't really feel like it's related, but it is. So just working on some different elements of that. And then bend that knee, rest it down, give yourself a little pat. You can sink down into your arm again. Just giving yourself a rest for a moment. And then once again, pick yourself up. Lift up through that top arm. This time we're going to straighten that leg out and have a little swing forward and a little swing back. So really see if you can provide some support and stability with your upper body so that your leg can move quite freely out beneath you. Just swinging forward. Notice it's not a big movement. It's a bit like a pendulum of a grandfather clock swinging down underneath you. Very nice. Just try that a couple more times. And then bend that knee. Give yourself a little bit of a rest. And we'll go up and over to the other side. So sitting yourself up nicely, elbow a little bit out to the side. You're going to swivel and pivot that arm so that it's pointing at a diagonal away. Bottom knee is bent. Hips are stacked. And just start by kind of slouching into that bottom shoulder so that you feel what it's like to have the opposite of support through that underneath side. And then pick yourself up, start to lift up through the top arm, straighten out the top leg, and you're just lifting and lowering that top leg. So you can have a little experiment with what the foot's doing here. You can try flexing, you can try pointing. But the main thing we're worried about is just not allowing this lower side to collapse as your leg is moving. So really feeling the stability that we're creating through the underneath side of the body, up through to the arm, underneath the armpit, all of that. And then have a little rest down, take a little break. Put yourself out on that top side, which can feel good. And then we'll lift right back up again. Straighten out that top leg again and have a little swing forward and a little swing back. So quite like to flex the foot forward and point it back. See what works for you here. Keeping really stable through the upper body here. Good. One more time. And then rest that down. Give yourself a little pat and then come back up to seated. How did you find that? Yeah, so again, it's about all these, again, that's another point to be made too, is like there's lots of different elements that you might not think about that affect your goals and expectations too. So just to keep in mind that it's not just one thing that you're working on. Sometimes if you approach it from a different direction, that can help you to break it down a little bit more too. So hopefully you found that useful. Let's go ahead and set you up for meditation now. So getting your cushions or whatever you need to make yourself nice and comfortable here. And then just settling in, finding a space where you can just allow your mind to be quiet. So when our bodies are comfortable, that's more easy to find. So maybe you want to be in a chair or up against a wall for a little bit more support for your back. Just make there's no right or wrong with this either. It's just about being in a position that's not going to bring you pain or discomfort. So once you're there, just allow the eyes to close. And we'll start to do this little body scan, checking in with yourself, maybe for the first time today. Beginning with the crown of the head, noticing any sensations there, some tingling or heat or cool or heaviness or lightness, any tension through those muscles, the very crown of the head. And then working your way down, scanning through the forehead and the eyebrows, through the eyes, the nose, the cheeks and the mouth. Noticing any sensations there, any tension, any pain, any absence of pain. Through the sides of the head, past the ears, past the back of the skull. Noticing any tingling, heaviness or lightness. Back of the neck, front of the neck, sides of the neck. Through the shoulders, bring your awareness to the tops of the shoulders, just allowing them to have your bit of attention for a moment, noticing any sensations as you work your way down through the upper arm, the elbow, the lower long arms, and the hands. And then work your way down through the front of the body, past the chest, the abdomen, and belly. Noticing any sensations through the upper back, the mid-back, and the lower back. Noticing the heaviness of your form as you're seated on to your buttocks on the floor or the surface of the chair, whatever you're sitting on. And then work your way down, just noticing any sensations through the tops of the thighs, through the knees, through the lower legs, and through the feet. Noticing any tension that you might be holding on through to the legs. Can you adjust to make yourself just feel really comfortable seated where you are? Then we'll begin to come into that 5 minutes of golden beautiful silence so that you can really take a little holiday, a little break from thinking to focus on your breath. If counting helps you to do that, you can count up to 10 and then start back over at 1 again, just counting your breaths. We'll begin at 5 minutes now. And as you start to bring your awareness back into the room, just leaving your eyes closed for another moment so that you can just really appreciate the way that you do show up for yourself every day and all those little things that you do get done, so that you're not just constantly being hard on yourself, but that you're really grateful for the things that you do have and the little tasks and things that you're accomplishing, whether it's just getting out of bed each morning, and just really be grateful for that. There's a real science to this gratitude, just appreciating all of those little things, taking a moment to be thankful, seeing what maybe how you can shift some expectations that might be feeling too big right now and break them down into smaller, more manageable parts. And just feeling the textures with your fingers, with your trousers, with the air around you, moving your wrists. And then opening your eyes. Thank you for joining me for another day of movement and mindfulness. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about building really healthy habits and expectations for ourselves, I'll be really diving deep in my 10-week program that I'll be opening up at the end of this month. So if you have any questions or any comments or anything, go ahead and leave those in the comment section or personal message me, whatever you feel compelled to do. And I'll see you back here tomorrow at 7:30. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.